The football gods have smiled on the New York Jets, at least for the time being. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rich Sports Talk. Clearly, very different circumstances than the last live stream when we were talking about the injury to Zach Wilson. When we started the program with it appearing like an ACL injury as the night progressed, slowly trickled in better news. Now, officially, the first MRI has come out. The official prognosis is clear on Zach Wilson. And to be honest, it is a lot better than I could have possibly imagined. And look, I'm usually the eternal optimist, but even I was looking at this as a similar injury to what happened to Zach last year. I was assuming 6 weeks. I was at the best hoping he'd miss the first 4 games of the season, but there's a chance, slim, but a chance Zach Wilson could potentially be the opening day starter. But I will also say this, if he is not 100% ready for opening day, I don't mind him missing a start or two. So much to get into today. Thank you again last night for everyone getting on the poll. We will get to the poll question in a little bit. A lot of fan interaction last night. Thanks everyone for joining the live stream last night. Really appreciate everyone who joined, commented. We had a lot. And look, it was a very raw and emotional night for obvious reasons. It was not easy. And you look right now, things have been like, if you were to tell me last night that this would be the prognosis, and again, I know some of the beat writers say be a bit patient. There could still be a little bit more damage in there. It might not be a clear 2 to 4, but the fact that it's just a 2 to 4 week injury for me is the biggest news, because now you have a chance to basically have Zach Wilson start week 1, or at the very bare minimum miss at most, it looks like 2 games. Now, I was saying last night that part of the reason that this injury is bad, and no matter the timetable, it is not ideal for Zach Wilson, is because he's going to miss a key month of practice. I mean, that cannot be overshadowed. It's clear that Zach still needs to work on reads, still needs to work on the progressions, and still build chemistry with these young players out there. So that is definitely going to hurt the development slightly. It's not ideal for Zach in terms of that basically he's going to have to stay back. Again, guys, a lot of chats open. Make sure you reach out to the chat. And also, we have a poll on the community page. Check that out. We'll talk about the poll right now is if you need a spot starter, who you starting, Mike White or Joe Flacco? And right now it is neck and neck. Let's see who will win that one. So if you haven't yet, go check out the poll, and I'll get to that. If you're joining us after, make sure you put your comments in the chat below and also on this page. We would love to hear from you, and make sure to subscribe. So a lot of questions already in the chat. I'll get a little bit more into this, but I'm going to get to you guys right off the bat because, again, love the support. Love the questions you bring. Spin Max Dave is excited. Woo. That was a close one. Jacob Klein, Zach will be rusty for the first month now. His durability now is a massive issue. Jacob, let me get to the first ones. The rust, I think, for the first game or two could clearly be there. And the other thing, too, is I don't necessarily believe it's rust. Look, there's a lot of new pieces on this offense. Yes, they have Corey Davis and Elijah Moore back, but he's playing with a whole new tight end room. Garrett Wilson, who's going to be in the top of the rotation, a whole new running back. And the offensive line, there's still going to be a lot of new pieces because, like, let's assume Dwayne Brown plays left tackle. You have one player on that offensive line basically returning to the same position they played last year, and that's Connor McGovern at center, because you have Elijah Vera Tucker and Fant potentially kicking over to the right side, both right guard and right tackle, especially, and you bring in Laken Tomlinson. But Jacob brings up a good point with the durability. Now, Zach really has to prove that he can get through a full season, because if he has another nick along the way, if he gets another injury throughout the season, you do have to question the durability. I was thrilled that he put on a lot of muscle this offseason. I was excited because it looked like he could take more punishment, but this also was a bit of a freak injury. Thank God it's lucky. And look, I'm trying to be on the positive side here today, where we've seen weirder injuries that have caused a lot more damage. And look, to me, the Jets dodged an incredible bullet, because this, to me, at least gives you a season of Zach Wilson. And look, whether you like Zach Wilson, I know some Jet fans are already ready to move on from Zach Wilson. the clear question about the 2022 season is you need an answer on Zach Wilson. And the Jets have done an incredible job of eliminating the variables around Zach Wilson. So it's going to be up to Zach. It's going to be if Zach sinks or swims this year. And that is what the storyline of the season is. And now you get a fair evaluation because, like I was saying last night, if he was out for 8 to 10 weeks, you wouldn't have a fair evaluation. And I do think this now takes Jimmy G off the table. If there's somehow a setback for 4 to 5 weeks, which I don't see at this point, but it just feels like the Jimmy G talk is done as well, because if it was a significant injury, I would completely go in that direction. But it does appear like the best news possible. Spin Max Dave, no rush for Zach. Flacco against Ravens will still be fun to watch. Besides, Zach plays his best after injury. Yeah, but Spin Max Dave, let's not make this a habit. Let's not. Our line is an issue because it could brand new next year. Our O-line is an issue because it could be brand new. You mean this year, I think. Next year. Oh, I see what you're saying, Jacob. I can kind of agree. I mean, we're looking really far down the road. I mean, we haven't played a regular season game. We're already talking about who's not going to be on the team next year. Look, they like McGovern. I don't know if they'd let McGovern leave. They're already talking with fan of the extension and Brown. I mean, it's a 2-year deal. I still haven't gotten the particulars on that of what the guarantees are. So I'm looking for that. It's not 2 to 4 weeks just yet. Once they scope the knee, it could be longer. P reporters are putting out false info as to time frame from Modine. I'm still being optimistic with this. Again, they could scope it out. And if it is a little bit longer, if it's like a 6-week injury, we shall see. But for the most part, Mo, I'm still being incredibly positive about this. Look, I think you have to be at this point because last night we were talking about, we started the night thinking his entire season was over. Then I was also getting to the point where there's a good chance he was missing a significant portion of the season. Even if it's a bit longer, the good thing is the timing of this injury. And look, injuries are never ideal. And I did start this off saying it's not ideal that Zach's going to miss key reps and he's going to miss key practice time in this preseason. But it's a lot better that this happens now when you have a month to the regular season than in the third or second preseason game where it's 2 to 3 weeks. Because now at least the Jets have some time. They have a little bit of to recuperate. And more importantly, it feels like the most he's going to miss is 2 games. Not ideal. I completely understand. But we also have to remember where we were, I'm not even 24 hours ago, like 12 hours ago, where Jet fans were. So completely different. William Justin, shocked how poor he looked before the injury. WTF. Look, it wasn't pretty. That interception was not a good read by Zach Wilson. He still was locking on a receiver there. And look, Zach's got to prove it this year. And like I just said, William, this season is going to be on Zach. If Zach struggles, the Jets have eliminated the variables. If Zach struggles, it's on Zach. This isn't Sam Darnold's case. And yes, I know hindsight's 2020 and Sam Darnold doesn't look like a good quarterback. But the Jets also didn't do him any favors by not having a good offensive line, not having weapons, not having a running game, not having a good play caller. You feel pretty good about the Jets' play calling now. The offensive line, yes, is taking a hit with Mekhi Becton, but this still should be a top half unit in the NFL. They've improved the wide receiver position. They've improved the playmakers. They've improved the pass rush on the defense. This is a better team around Zach. This is the most talented, arguably, team the Jets have had in a long time. And look, they've eliminated a lot of the variables around Zach Wilson. So if Zach Wilson struggles and Zach Wilson isn't able to pick himself up and play well this year, it's on Zach. It's not on the Jets. It's not on this coaching staff because they've done everything possible. And I've contended that Zach Wilson should be in the best position of every second-year quarterback to take a jump this year because he's the only quarterback from last year's class that still has the same head coach, the same general manager, the same offensive coordinator. And while I know that doesn't sound that important, you've been hearing what's happening in Patriot camp with the offensive struggles. Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields have to learn entirely new systems. They're still trying to pick up the speed of the game, but they're learning completely new offenses. They're going into another year where they have to continue to learn offense. And look, Trey Lance has got a lot of pressure on him where he's had accuracy issues, and they've already announced that basically it's his opportunity. And if he doesn't work, it's going to be bad. And look, the 49ers have a talented team and they have an unbelievable head coach. So if it doesn't work out with Trey Lance, that is a major issue. So for all the things we talked about, and even San Francisco, they lost their offensive coordinator, became the Dolphins head coach. So Zach Wilson was the only quarterback that didn't have turnover this offseason compared to every other quarterback in his class. Even if you want to throw Davis Mills in there, Davis Mills, new head coach this year, new system. Zach Wilson is the only quarterback out of 6 quarterbacks in last year's draft class that will have continuity. And that I also could say, I feel of all the teams, yeah, do the Jets have the most talented on the offense compared to some of these other rookie quarterbacks? I mean, it's probably not San Francisco, but it feels like Zach of all these other teams probably now has the second best complete offense. And on top of all that, the Jets, they did so much. They got a running back, they got wide receivers, they completely renovated the tight end room, they've addressed the offensive line. So if Zach struggles, it's on Zach. And I completely get that. The best thing that could have happened to the Jets was Zach being out for the season. Now they will win. Moji, I don't get the best thing to happen. I disagree. Look, you need an answer about Zach Wilson, good or bad. And look, I know Jets fans are frustrated. I know Jets fans, and trust me, I want to be back to the playoffs as soon as possible. But I also want long-term success of this franchise. I don't want an adrenaline shot like 2015. I don't want a falsehood that basically, oh, this team might be good at the long term, but it was just a comet. It was just a 1-year deal, and they sacrificed years afterward for that one hollow playoff run. Like, I want consistency throughout this organization. Agreed, but I'm hoping for him, but have no idea whether he'll pan out based on what we'll see. Look, I feel like this organization, unfortunately, they're going to have to make a decision, because there's also a couple big elephants in the room now where the AFC has gotten to the point now with so much talent at the quarterback position where if you're in the NFC and you have a decent quarterback, you have a shot to make the postseason. If you're in the AFC and you're a decent quarterback, there's a chance you're going to finish in last place in your division. I mean, you look at how many great quarterbacks are in the AFC now. And if you're the Jets in this organization, you have to really look at this by the end of the year and say, look, can Zach Wilson doesn't have to go toe-to-toe, but can he at least be in the same stratosphere as Mahomes, a Herbert, an Allen? Because if he's not, I do think that the Jets will do better than what Miami's done. I think they will make a decision at the end of this year and decide whether to change direction at the quarterback position. And trust me, I'm a proponent of, look, you got to give these kids time to develop. I mean, you look at Ryan Tannehill, he's developed into a pretty good quarterback, and it took him a while to get there. Like, it's so freaking hard. Like, we've been spoiled in the NFL because, yes, Herbert was a unicorn and came out of nowhere. And people forget with Patrick Mahomes sat an entire season behind Alex Smith. You cannot tell me that was instrumental to how great of a quarterback he has. Like, even with a lot of these young kids, like Trevor Lawrence struggled, like all these kids, like everyone's like just expecting them to be Justin Herbert. Like, I feel like Justin Herbert has skewed everything, and so is Joe Burrow, because now every front office and every team is going to look and say, like, well, if our quarterback by the end of year 2 isn't getting us deep into playoff runs, he's a failure. And I think that's a bit of a harsh criticism. But if the Jets get to this end of the season and they don't have a great answer on Zach, then you know what the answer is. It's to move on, and it's to move on to the next chapter. But we still have to give him a season, guys. I mean, we haven't even gotten to the regular season yet. So, look, I understand the optics weren't great. The first series wasn't great. I understand that the injury sucks. Like, I get all the frustration, but give it at least to Thanksgiving. They will have an answer by Thanksgiving, good or bad. And I think that's when they won't say it publicly, but internally they will have a decision. Flacco week 1 and week 2 thoughts, eat your crow. So that's a good question, because we do have a poll up in the community page. And I asked this 3 hours ago. And again, thanks everyone for the responses. It was, if Zach misses time, who should start at QB for the Jets? And to be honest with you guys, I'm a little surprised from the chat last night. Just my thought, just the comments that were coming in. To me, it looked like you guys were kind of split 50-50, but boy, I was wrong. 69%, nice. Selecting Joe Flacco, 31% selecting Mike White. So Joe Flacco for a week or two, that for me is perfect. Like, if you were to tell me Joe Flacco at this point for me feels like he's a good insert starter. 1 or 2 weeks, I can get away with it. 3 to 4 weeks or more, then I have questions. But for a fill-in spot start, I have absolutely no problem. I think it's fine. I think it's good. You get a veteran quarterback that knows how to read a defense. And look, it's early in the season. Everyone's fresh. Joe Flacco's fresh. You're still having defenses trying to figure themselves out. There isn't a defense that's going to confuse Joe Flacco or really throw him off. And yes, I understand he's doesn't have the athletic ability that you would like to see. But I also feel like this Jet team is going to look to really establish the run the football a lot, get the ball out Flacco's hands quickly. And more importantly, I don't think that there's a defense that's going to really confuse him. And plus, the Jets' offensive line, I think, is pretty good. Like, this isn't a sieve for an offensive line anymore. I do think the offensive line can protect him and give him time to throw. Sal's a bad coach to top it all. Like, come on, guys. Like, we're not even the regular season. He stared down receivers last night, staring receiving for another interception on the first drive. That offseason work sure did wonders. Look, it's still early. Like, I understand, like, it doesn't look good, like, from that first game. And look, it's just a sour note. I think there's just a sour note in everyone's mouth. Like, look, if Zach Wilson is still doing this midway through the season, it's a huge concern. I completely understand that. But overall, like, today, I'm still feeling like this is a good day for the New York Jets because we were coming into last night thinking that the season was over. I mean, like, it almost feels like the football gods have smiled a bit on the Jets a little bit because you're looking again, it looks like Brown starting center Nick Harris suffered season-ending knee surgery. So, like I said last night too, I know this is a bruise and a meniscus tear. People killing the Jets for playing Zach last night. Look, this could have happened at practice. Like, you can't predict these knee injuries. They're weird. But am I concerned long-term? Because it's, again, another injury to the right knee. Yeah, to be honest with you, I am a bit concerned. That is not really comforting. But we got to see if he can get through a full season. We got to see, like, look, there is a lot of pressure on Zach this year. If he doesn't perform, and now there's the case too where you can throw this variable in there as well. Let's say Zach does play well. If he misses 4 to 6 games in the middle of the season, he has another injury. You wonder, the Jets say, look, we love the talent, but we've also been dealing with another situation like this. We have an unbelievable talented player, Mekhi Becton, but he's never on the field, and you need to be on the field to produce. So there's a lot of questions that are going to come up with Zach. And look, Zach's got a lot of questions to answer. There's no question of anyone in this Jet organization, even more so than Robert Saleh. I think Zach Wilson is the one that's got the most pressure on him. He's got the most questions to be answered this year. And how does he answer them? It's with his play out on the field. He needs to be evaluated, so he had to play. And William Justice, I was saying this last night too. I don't know if you were joining us during that part of the live stream, but people that want to kill the Jets for playing some starters last night and playing Zach Wilson, you also have to understand what's happened in NFL training camp. The amount of practices and the amount of live practices with full pads has dramatically been reduced. And I get what the NFL is attempting to do. They're trying to limit injuries. They're trying to eliminate contact. They're trying to eliminate concussions. They're trying to eliminate head injuries and major injuries in training camp. I get all that. But a part of it, me too, also wonders, the rash of injuries we see, is it because the guys aren't necessarily in football shape? Because there's one thing to be in shape, but there's also football shape where you have to condition your body to take those blows, to be able to recover, to get the feel of contact. like that really is underrated. So when you look at the lack of reps now available in practice, now coaches are kind of in a no-win situation because it's like, they're not going to get enough reps in just the practice. We want to put them in the game. We understand the risk of putting them in the game. And look, there's risk anywhere. And even at practice now, I argue, look, especially with these knee injuries, you have just as much of a chance to run around the corner and tear your ACL in practice as you do in a preseason game. So I don't think it was that bad. And look, I understand the first series was frustrating. Like it'd be funny, like if Zach Wilson came out in the second series, led a 10-play, 68-yard drive, touchdown drive, we wouldn't be talking about this. But unfortunately, had the bad first drive, the bad interception, and then of course the injury. So it was bad. Like I know it's bad, but um uh so it's just too crazy to me that is the situation. But again, guys, chat is open. If you have any questions, would love to hear from you guys. Thank you again for filling out the poll. That's also still on Rich Sports Talk on the community page, where we have talked about if Zach misses time, who should start for the Jets. And I think the answer is pretty clear who it's going to be. Now, is there a chance if everything goes perfectly that Zach Wilson could start opening day? Absolutely. But I also truly believe the Jets are not going to put him out there till he's 100%. And I know the old adage, well, during football season, you're never really 100%. But I do believe the Jets, like they did last year, are going to make sure that he has his mobility, that he's able to run when he goes out there for the regular season. And look, you're playing some really good pass rushes early in the season. You want to make sure you can avoid those pass rushes. So, but again, compared to where we were last night, no ligament damage. It's a minimally invasive surgery to fix a meniscus. Because I've actually had people, I had like a knee problem. They thought it might be a meniscus. It turned out it wasn't, but they were telling me it was a very easy procedure. Like they don't even need to knock you out. They just go right in. Bone bruise. Like if you were to tell me last night that there was a chance that Zach wouldn't have to miss any games potentially, I would have said you're crazy. Like I really didn't see him potentially coming back to week 4. Now you're saying there's a chance he could be back for week 1, or at least within the first 2 weeks of the season. That is incredibly fortunate news. And we have to look at that as a positive. And look, I know that there's a lot of people that have already moved off from Zach. And I would just beg people to say, look, just give the kid to at least the end of the season. Like he deserves at least a second full season. Look, if he gets injured again during this season and you have injury concerns, look, that I can't argue with you then if you're worried about the injuries. If he struggles on the field and continues to throw bad interceptions throughout the whole season. But the other thing too we have to keep in mind with Zach Wilson is the thing you love about Zach Wilson is also the things I think fans hate about Zach Wilson. He's a gunslinger. I mean, you love the big bomb down the field to Corey Davis last year, but if you want Zach Wilson to take shots down the field and throw the ball deep, he's going to have some interceptions. And look, I don't mind interceptions necessarily. I understand. I think they get kind of overblown sometimes. They're going to happen. I mean, no one's perfect, but there are times like you've seen Zach try to force throws into tight coverage, and you're like, okay, just because you have the arm talent to do that doesn't necessarily mean that you should. Hi, Rich. We dodged a bullet on this one from Carlos. Though somebody needs to help hold Coach Salah accountable. I'm sure he's a good motivational leader, but he's not perfect based on what I see. He should have not allowed Quincy Williams in the game. In practice is allowed. And look, he commented on the Williams hit afterward. It was a bad play. Look, it's not a good look on Quincy Williams. And I guarantee you now, Robert Saleh is probably having a serious sit down, Jeff Ulbrich with Quincy saying, look, that was an incredibly dumb play. I wonder if they're going to do like an internal fine on him as well. I'm interested to see if maybe they don't even play him in the next preseason game or, limit his snaps because of this. But look, the other thing too is people are saying like he shouldn't have been kept in the game. Last night, you didn't have Quan Alexander. it's tough. Like, should he have probably taken him out of the game? Yes. But did you also need to get him some reps and get his reps in? Like, it's a no-win situation, really. And I just have a feeling that Sal is going to talk to him, not just about that being a late hit, but more importantly, I just have a feeling Ulbrich and Sal, like, they understand defense and they understand how the rules are. They're probably, I guarantee you, if they didn't talk last night, they're talking to Quincy Williams the next time they see him and saying, look, Quincy, that's incredibly dumb for multiple reasons, but less or so, now you have a target on your back because every single referee, like people don't realize referees, they watch the game film. You cannot tell me that referees are going to look at that and in the NFL recap for the referees this week, they're going to put that play up and show a late hit. Like they're going to use that as an example of a late dirty hit and talk about what the ruling should be, if there should be ejection off of that. They're going to use that footage. So now Quincy Williams has put a target on his back. So if there's a bang bang play this season potentially and it's close where it looks like he may have gotten a little late on the quarterback or might have led with his head a little bit. Now referees are going to say if it's a judgment call and it's 50-50, they're going to lean that it's against Quincy Williams because they've now seen this footage and now they have this inkling that he's a great player. So I guarantee you that Sal and them are talking about, but for people saying he should just take him out of the game, it's a tough situation because of the roster. You want to get guys their reps. It's no win situation, but look, it's a bad play. It's not a good look. And look, how are you going to hold Coach Saleh accountable for that? Do you think Coach Saleh told Quincy Williams to go out there and do that? I guarantee you he was pissed. And I also believe that Saleh understands the New York media is watching him on the sidelines. He understands from last year how this media reacts and how they pick up on all these little cues that he's doing. I guarantee you he didn't want people to see him blow up on the sideline and then have that become another talking point in the press conference and another storyline. I guarantee you behind closed doors, they reamed him out for it. So we'll have to see if what happens with Quincy, if maybe this is one of those come to Jesus moments where all of a sudden he figures it out and realizes he can't do that. But hopefully it's good. Gerald, Jags fan here. Happy for all with the Wilson news. That's good. William Justin is depressing. Q Williams is that bone stupid. Look, this is the thing I don't get with fans. And look, one of the things you love about Quincy Williams is that he goes 1,000 miles an hour and he flies around like a bullet on the field. But unfortunately, there's a consequence to that. There's going to be times where when he plays that hard and that fast, he's probably going to come in a little bit late. He's probably going to be a little bit too aggressive. And the NFL's changed. And we've now seen all the new rule changes with the hitting, with the contact. Like it's something that I guarantee you, not just Quincy, but I guarantee you that Sal's going to pull that video up in the meeting this week, whether it's just the defense, whether it's the team, and saying, look, we can't do this. We can't do this. And the other reason, too, is you don't want to do that to your team because if you do that to their quarterback, I guarantee you they're going to try to do that to your quarterback. And do you really want, especially now with Zach Wilson coming back from an injury, do you really want to give a defense a little bit motivation to give a little extra on a play? So, look, I'm not happy with that play. I'm wondering if Quincy's going to announce an apology this week. I don't necessarily expect he will, but it's just one. If it was a stupid play, there's no question about that. It was just a stupid play that shouldn't have happened. It did. I mean, you're going to see this in the NFL, some close plays like that, but it will be interesting to see. Now with Joe Flacco, does he play week 1 and slide into the Browns game week 2 potentially? We'll have to see. I mean, that'd be a great storyline week 1, Joe Flacco versus the Ravens. I'm really excited to see that. That could be a fun game. So they're getting a second opinion according to Rich Cimini. My guess is they'll try to do the surgery is possible. Now, the timetable could be extended if there's more damage discovered through the arthroscopy. But even if there is, the most I think you would see is an additional week or two. But like I said, like last night, I didn't see him playing the first quarter of the season. Now there's a good chance Zach, at the most, it feels like misses 2 games. So for me, that's still a win. And really, I have to look at the full context where last night I thought he was done for the entire season. And yes, I understand that now, and you guys have made it clear in the chat that there is concern about Zach's durability issues. Like I completely understand it. I get where you're coming from, and that's going to be a narrative now that Zach also has to deal with. He has to prove that he can stay healthy the remainder of this year, because if he can't, it's going to be a big discussion. Because even if he plays well, if he's not able to stay on the field the rest of the season, you're the Jets as an organization. It's going to be tough. Like, we love Zach's talent, but he gets hurt. He's not able to play every game. Like, that is such a huge detriment. And guys, chat's always open. Love to hear from you. Rich Sports Talk also on Twitter. If you'd like to give us a follow there, of course, we'll be recapping every single game afterwards. And look, one thing that was encouraging last night, shifting a little bit from Zach, was I did like the pressure you saw last night. Bryce Huff, Anai, Tanzel Smart, Jabari Zuniga. But really one player that stuck out to me last night was Michael Clemens, the 4th-round pick. And it is interesting with him too, because eventually I do wonder if this team maybe moves on John Franklin Myers down the road, or maybe they could use him as a valuable trade piece. Not this year, but maybe in a year or two, because Clemens has an incredible motor, but one of the things that really intrigued me was his usage last night, because even when they drafted him, I was a little skeptical, because I was saying, look, the Jets already have a bunch of defensive ends, and I'm concerned about the D tackle position. But you saw last night that that they feel comfortable, especially with him being 275, 280 pounds, to move him inside, playing on the defensive tackle position. And I really like the way he did. He really was out there. I really like the way that he was able to get up the field. And look, he, to me, could be an exciting project. Now, this year, I don't know how much of an impact he will have. But when I'm looking at a lot of these young guys, it's really just seeing some of those flashes in the preseason, seeing some of those flashes that you are able to say, like, okay, I see something here. It's more concerning where you're like, okay, I don't really see too much. I'm so happy that my critical nurse was right yesterday. She thought at best it was a bone bruise, worst partial tear of the ACL. THG Wicked. I mean, your mom that should do Twitter, because like all the doctor pundits yesterday were saying ACL done for the year, and like and like a lot of you guys in the chat, and I give you credit, you guys were calling it like I was thinking PCL like last year, but when Justive go mom. I mean, yeah, like she should be like the Twitter doctor for the NFL and just diagnose injuries, because she's been more accurate than it seems like the rest of Twitter. She knew right away that his ACL was not all damaged and it was highly unlikely. Let me ask you this, THG Wicked. Was it the way that he landed? Was it his ability to walk off the field? Like, what was it that tipped her off that it wasn't the ACL? Because also, I do understand the thought process for a lot of fans where when you see a non-contact knee injury, most of the time it is an ACL. It's basically the joint giving out. So, and also that's our worst fears, because we've seen it already this camp with multiple teams, ACL injuries. And it's one of those injuries too in the NFL. Like, if you have an ACL, you're done for the entire season. So if you could share her process to that, I'd love to hear it. If you're able to, like, I understand. She liked how he was weight bearing and that he was walking to the locker room ball to toe and doing that without help or discomfort. It looked like he was in a bit of discomfort, but yeah, like as the night went on, I thought it was more the PCL. And they also said that one of the things too was when the media members were looking into the locker room, he wasn't wearing a knee brace. And if they thought it was an ACL, they would have had him in a knee brace. So overall, and look, I think that this is as best news as possible. Even if they go in and find slightly more damage, it feels like the most they'd add is an extra 2 weeks. So maybe then it would be a 4 to 6 timeline. But either way, yes, it is bad because it limits Zach's reps in preseason. It limits his training camp, which is not good. I mean, let's be honest. Like, he could use the training camp. He could use as much practice as he possibly can going into the season. But in the grand scheme of everything for this Jets team and for this organization, this is the best news because we were seriously having talks last night of him missing half the season to potentially the full season. And if that was the case, you would have major questions around. Now, there's still questions about Zach. There's still questions about his talent. And I understand that Zach's going to be the talking point this year. And look, when you have a young quarterback, and especially a quarterback that there's questions about, he's going to be the talking point. Absolutely. And it is funny though. I think what lasted longer, the Jimmy G Jets era or the Tyreek Hill Jets era? I mean, both were just streaking across the sky, and both were short lived. So, but I do think that you have to really be happy as a Jet fan because look, this is the best possible news that you could have gotten. Like, let's be honest, you weren't getting the news that no, Zach's completely fine. It was nothing. So overall, this is the best news you could be. She thought it could have been a PCL or MCL as well. She also didn't think meniscus was that damaged to at all. She did say if it is his meniscus was damaged, it would be trimmed, which is what it is getting done according to it. I was telling a bunch of my friends the good news and hoping that she was right. Well, share that good news and tell your mom to get on Twitter to be an NFL doctor. I mean, she's more accurate than a lot of people. So, I mean, maybe she could become like the celebrity fill-in doctor for fantasy football to give you updates on fantasy injuries. I mean, look at it could be a side hustle. I'm just saying, I mean, if she wants to be the Rich Sports Talk official go-to doctor, I'd love to, get an official doctor's opinion on Jets injuries throughout the year. I mean, if she's open to doing that, I mean, we always could use as many good insight as we can and people that understand. Like, I understand football, I understand the draft. Medical, I know nothing about. Like, let's be honest. Like, I don't. Like, I do as much research as I can, but like, I know the football. Like, that's why I'm here. Like, I'm not a medical expertise. So, but like I'm ecstatic, like Jets fans. Like I know there's still some reservations, and I get it. But even Sal said after the game, I know we talked about Quincy a little bit earlier too, that he was really upset about that. And he also said, look, he talked to Nick Sirianni after the game, and look, it's tough. Like, you have players that play like that. They play 1,000 miles an hour, and they're not necessarily thinking, they're just going. And Quincy's one of those players. And look, it's a bad look, but. She was right about Becton last year as well. She said to me last year Becton was going to be totally out for the year, sadly, when everyone else was saying 6 to 8 weeks. And yeah, with Becton last year, it was difficult because even when the diagnosis came out, I still was hesitant because don't forget too, he's an offensive lineman. He's got a massive frame, and it takes longer to heal when you're bigger. I mean, Zach Wilson's fortunate. He's a quarterback. He's got a smaller frame, not as much pressure on the joints. It's easier for him to recover. So, I mean, you usually see it too. Like, a lot of the skill position guys, when they have injuries, they don't tend to be as long compared to offensive linemen or big defensive linemen. It's just because the joints are more stressed, the ligaments are more stressed at that size, and it takes longer to recover or get them back to close to 100% or the playing level. So, I mean, if she wants to be the Rich Sports Talk official team doctor, she could easily get that diagnosis. So, like, make sure you join us, the Wicked, for every recap we do, because like, if I have an injury question, I'm just gonna refer to her because she sounds completely accurate, and like, that's her expertise. But look, like I'm saying, like, I'm saying she should become an NFL Twitter doctor, just give updates on injuries, because it sounds like she's a lot more accurate than a lot of people out there. I mean, I remember some people, like, literally 2 seconds after the injury last night, like ACL. I'm like, Zach's still down on the field. Like, can we? He's not even walking yet. Can we at least wait until after the game? And look, yes, I speculated last night that it was the ACL from what the news was coming out, and it was mostly that they feared it was the ACL. And during the show, as more information came out and became more privy, we were able to adjust that. And even last night, I was saying, look, Best case scenario, misses 4 games. But even now, if the surgery finds a little more damage, it still feels like the most Zach's probably going to miss is 2 games, which is really ideal. She hated how all these doctors yesterday were saying with absolute conviction without an MRI they had 100% ACL tear. She did stress to me that she could be wrong too without having an MRI. And like that's unfortunately what happened with Becton. And people were killing Salah last night too. Like they're like, oh, why isn't he giving an answer? Well, he didn't really want to give a positive answer last night. He's already been snake bitten by that this offseason when he was trying to downplay the Becton situation. Look, the doctor said it looked great, but it's also a big difference when you're a 370-pound offensive lineman, the amount of damage you can do compared to being a 218-pound quarterback on your knee. There's a lot more damage. Like if your knee buckles the wrong way or the joint goes the wrong way, there's a lot more weight. Like it's physics. I mean, it's basically mass times acceleration equals force. So the heavier you are, you could be doing the same thing at the same speed, but the heavier your mass is, the more damage and the more force you put potentially on the ligaments, on the joints, on the bones. So for a big guy like Becton, that's why it does more damage. And for a guy like Zach, I think the Jets were incredibly fortunate last night. Now, the biggest thing I'm really intrigued about by this, and maybe THG, you can answer this question for me, or maybe ask and then message me afterwards about this message that I would wonder. So, if Zach does this procedure, how quickly can he get back on the field? Now, when I mean back on the field, not fully running, not fully cutting, but could he still take practice reps? Like I'm saying, drop back and throw, like not do rollouts, not do anything crazy, but at least still be on the field, maybe even just working on his throwing, still being out there working, running a bit of the offense in practice. Because for me, that's the most important thing. Like, even if he's not in game shape, if he's able to still go out there and practice and just get those practice reps, that would be incredibly huge. Like I do wonder, is this something like where he can at least wear a brace maybe in practice? Even if he has to miss the first game, could he at least get maybe 2 to 3 weeks of practice in, as opposed to basically he can't practice until he's 100%? Oh, damn, that was quick. She thinks that he'll take 3 weeks off, take an additional week to get back to football, and then actually play. So, roughly a week, 3 weeks off. So that would put the Jets a week out from the home opener and a week to get back. So I just have a feeling if that's the case, he probably misses the opening game, because I do think they would prefer to have him get 2 weeks of practice in. So like, but you get what I was saying about the practice situation where, yeah, he could take time off, but could he at least be back on the practice? Like, look, even though he's going to have the 3 weeks off, he's still going to be studying game film. He's still going to be studying game plans. He's still going to be working to the first season. Like he's just not going to sit at home and eat potato chips on the couch and binge on Netflix and watch the new Woodstock 99 documentary or whatever new documentary's out. Did see that, by the way. That was also crazy. So a little bit of a selfish plug there. Although I will say my favorite show recently, because I'm a big sports fan and a huge hockey fan, Shoresy on Hulu. If you like the movie Slapshot, or you want to see The Office in hockey, go check it out. Only 6 episodes, but freaking hilarious. So if you're looking for a new binge, highly recommend. So yeah, just seeing if any other comments. If you guys have any questions, make sure to put them in the chat. Again, thank you for joining us, especially last night. We're going to be doing recaps after every single game, every preseason game, every regular season game, of course. I'm also going to put a poll up too, because we did get a lot of reaction last night. So I'm going to probably try to do the live streams right after the game, but I also wonder, do people prefer it on Monday? So let me know in the comments what you prefer, or rather a week or two of football practice after those. Hold on. Or rather a week or two of football practice after those until 3 weeks off. She thinks that he could be back. So 3 weeks. So from the time of the procedure, 3 weeks, and then he could be ready to go in a game, or is that ready to go in practice? Because I do think that's a big difference. if it's, or is it more leaning 3 weeks and then he's got to work back into game shape for like a week or two? Because those are very different timelines. So like if that could be an answer as well. It just to me feels like I keep refreshing Twitter to keep seeing. But one other nice thing too about last night, I'll just shift a little bit to one player that I really was impressed with too, and he he didn't really get a lot of pub last night because again he hasn't got a lot of train camp. Was Jeremy Rucker, not just a touchdown catch, but really good blocker. Like I don't think he's going to be a starting tight end for the Jets next year, but him and Michael Clemens show me that they have a lot of upside, and that to me is really exciting. Um, so I'm just waiting to see what THG Wicked. I hope he didn't leave because I'm still kind of waiting to see what the response is. Aha, nice. I'm also a hockey fan. Sadly, I'm an Islander fan. It's been tough for most 23 years. THG, it could be worse. My hockey team doesn't technically exist anymore. I mean, Hartford Whalers. So yeah, I mean, greatest logo of all time. I still wish the NHL, I mean, we could put teams in the desert and we have Arizona playing in a freaking college rink, but we can't put a team in Hartford. You know, yeah, that 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 will be crazy. So, would love to hear you guys. If you got any questions, put them in the chat. And TH Wicked, hopefully, we now have a new connection here on the show for our medical expertise. So basically, what I wanted to ask is from the time of the procedure, if it is what it is, like there's no additional damage. So the two things I want to know is the first thing is how long until he could practice, like lightly practice, like because to me, getting those reps at practice are crucial. Like he's not necessarily running around a lot, but he could be in a brace, still at least taking snaps, still at least running the offense from the pocket, not doing like the rollouts or anything significant, so he can get those key practice reps. And then the other thing too would be when he would roughly be 100% for the games, because if it's a 4-week timetable, he could be ready for week one. But if he's like, I think anything like under 90% ready, I just think the Jets are going to be cautious with Zach. I just have a feeling Flacco's going to be the week one starter. And look, this is why they brought in Flacco is, do I think they looked at this situation and go, well, Flacco, if we need to start 3 or 4 consecutive games? No, but for a spot start, I think Joe Flacco is more than fine. I think Joe Flacco is more than capable of being a spot starter and at least filling in for one game. And especially early in the season, I think a guy like Flacco has an advantage where you still have defenses, still they haven't seen film, they haven't seen offenses on film. Flacco has pretty much seen every defense you can throw at a veteran quarterback. Like early in the season, everyone's healthy. The offensive line's pretty healthy. To me, that at least would be encouraging. And I thought Flacco, look, I thought he did well in the game he started last year in Miami. Look, I understand it was a loss, but we're talking about close to 300 yards passing, 24 of 39. I thought he was serviceable in that game. He gave the Jets a chance to win. And look, if he gives you that against the Ravens, I'd be more than happy. But I also don't think they're going to ask Joe Flacco to throw that much, to be honest with you. I really think this team is going to look to really establish the run game, really go out there, ground and pound the football, make sure that they're able to establish that good running game. And I mean, look, overall, I thought Flacco did fine last year. It is kind of what it is. I know in that game threw a couple touchdowns as well. But look, I think Flacco, if you had a spot game or two, he's more than capable to basically carry a team for a game or two. And I think he is what he is. I think you're expecting like 225 to 275 yards passing, maybe an interception, probably takes 2 or 3 sacks because of the lack of mobility, but he's not going to kill you turning over the football. Now, I know a lot. It's funny because last night I felt like a lot of people were clamoring for Mike White. Like I was just expecting the Mike White train. And look, I did the poll today. I was going and saying, look, tell me what you guys want. Do you want to see which quarterback if he has to do a spot start? And 69% of you said Joe Flacco. I was surprised. I thought it was going to be 50-50. So um yeah, I was really surprised by that. But still, this is the best possible news I think we could have gotten today. And I know there's already people that have moved on, Zach Wilson. I can tell the mood in some of the chat. I can understand that there are Jet fans that are already ready to move on from him, but we have to give him you have to give him the season. If you want to come to me at the end of the season and say, look, he played terrible, he got injured, look, then we'll have the full sample size. Like, I think it's still too early to judge him. And yes, I know it was a bad taste in the mouth with the interception, but still, this is the best possible news because, and I know Jet fans might not like me how I phrase this, but this whole season is getting an answer. And this to me is the most important thing. And look, you might not like the answer, and I understand that, but you have to figure out this season. It's all about, is Zach Wilson the answer at quarterback? And you need to get the answer, whether it's he's yes, he is, or no, he isn't. The worst thing you could have had would be we don't know. And that would have been if he was missing half the season, if he missed the entire season. Then what happens next year? You go into like, well, you got the injury issues, didn't really see him play a lot. Like, I know it's not ideal, but if Zach Wilson does not play well this year, it gives you an answer. It's not the answer you want. It's not the answer we as Jet fans want because we're still desperate for that franchise quarterback. And I completely understand that. But at least it gives this team clarity that they either have to go draft another quarterback and try it again. And at least if they do that, they have the best foundation that they've had, arguably, for a rookie quarterback with all the pieces that they've added. Or, like I was saying last night, what if it's a situation where another veteran or talented top 10 quarterback wants to move, wants a different team? All of a sudden, the Jets, with their good young wide receivers, a pretty good offensive line, a pretty good running game, like if they can develop around Zach Wilson, like this offensive line, these receivers, these running backs continue to develop. If Zach's the answer, then maybe there's a quarterback that says, look, I want to come play with the Jets because all of a sudden, like I look around the league and they have some pretty good depth. They have a pretty good offensive line. They have some pretty fun young weapons. It's not the worst case scenario. You at least want to put this team in the best position possible going forward. And if at the end of the year, we look at this roster and say, look, this roster's really good. They're just missing the quarterback. It does help. And look, I understand, and the Wicket got back. Assuming no further injury is found, that he'll be 100% ready to play sometime in September. Not the first game, obviously, but he should be ready game 2 or game 3. And look, I think that's absolutely ideal. So that's good to know. And look, even if there is further injury to be found, I'm just speculating the Wicked 50 cal. I'm assuming if there's slightly more damage, it probably the most adds an extra week or two to the timeline. Zach healed faster than predicted last year. We'll do it again, Bruce Alves. Optimism, Bruno. I mean, we will talk about you here. We won't talk about you in Disney movies, but we will talk about you here. So I do love the optimism, Bruno. Like I do, and that's how I think you have to be today. And look, I understand there's still going to be concern. Even if he starts every game after this year, after this injury, there's still going to be the durability concerns with Zach. But to me, it's also, and now Quincy Williams did also respond today on the late hit versus Jalen Hurts. Quote, I should have slowed down. It was dumb on me. That really is it. It was like one of those learning moments, just let up. I wasn't paying attention to where the sideline was. Sal called it egregiously awful. So yes, they have gone after it. They have talked to him about last year, but one of the interesting matchups too I saw last night is a guy I've been really liking was Andre Dillard. But I will say Michael Clemens was putting in a lot of good work against Andre Dillard last night. So I was watching a lot of the recap. And today I'm still going to, basically today, I had to work this morning. I'm going to sit down, rewatch the game film, go over that. Not really do more of a breakdown, but just so I have more film study before the next game. I'm curious to see what the Jets do in the second preseason game. I have a feeling that I, I feel like the only Flacco, I doubt plays a series in the preseason. I really do. He doesn't need to. I'm wondering if they're trying to use this as a thing for Mike White to maybe get some trade value. But I am curious to see who gets playing time. Now, one interesting fact that did stand out, and look, I know I'm shifting away from Zach. I think we've talked about him enough today. Look, I'm really excited about where it is. Like, it's much better news than I could have anticipated. Even if there's some slight setbacks, it seems pretty good. And it looks like we have an official doctor correspondent with the channel now, which makes me really excited because now we actually have accurate people that can tell us accurate information as opposed to just looking on Twitter and seeing everyone just assumed it was an ACL tear last night. So, but I didn't get a chance to really talk a lot last night. If you want me to continue to talk Zach Wilson, put it in the chat. But I mean, some of the things that really stood out to me last night was some of the young players, especially in this draft class. I'm really excited about. But one thing that is concerning to me, and look, I understand, like I've defended Joe Douglas a lot on this channel. And I do think we have to view the 2020 draft with a grain of salt because he also was drafting for a very different coach, a very different system. And more importantly, yeah, the 2020 draft does not look great. But I will say it looks like that Douglas has learned significantly from that, and his drafts have been a lot better. And look, I throw Huff in the 2020 draft. Yes, I know he's not technically a draft pick, but he was in that draft class. He's been a good edge rusher. So I do throw him in there. I understand some people might disagree with that, but that's just my personal opinion. But you look last night, I mean, Denzel Mims, I know we talked about him a lot on this channel, but even though he's been in great shape, like it's over for me. I don't see him making this roster. I mean, I'm looking at Jeff Smith. I'm looking at all these other receivers like Denzel Mims. Like I need him to stand out above these guys, and he's not. And again, another illegal procedure. Like this is your third year in the NFL. Like I've refed kids in football in high school that know how to line up in the correct position, and you cannot do that. So THA Wicked with an interesting comment because I was actually going to get into this a little bit. I assume Max Mitchell did hurt his stock by his play last night. Now, when you say that, do you mean the one play I think you're talking about or his play in general? Because overall, I thought Mitchell's play was better than I expected. And you look at the amount of snaps, he got the most snaps of any tackle. So it's clear the Jets are trying to give him experience. But this also goes back to what I've been saying in episodes this entire week since the Mekhi Becton injury. Is like, I still be looking at Brandon Shell. I'd still be looking to sign a third tackle. If he's your fourth tackle, I think that that's ideal. But right now, I don't think he should be the first man up off the bench. But on that play, yeah, he got beat. But to be fair, also, Zach should just slid, gone out of bounds, thrown the ball away. There's a lot more that could have happened with Max Mitchell. I actually thought Mitchell looked decent last night. The problem is, and I get it, is when the quarterback gets hurt on that play, and let's be fair, at the scramble, this wasn't a thing like he got absolutely burned on that play and basically Zach Wilson got lit up in the pocket. That wasn't the thing. But you look last night for the snaps, Max Mitchell had 48 snaps. Chuma Adoga had 29. That's pretty telling to me how much that they are looking at like Max Mitchell over Adoga. And like you've heard it throughout camp, he's ahead of schedule. He's been playing overhead, and you look too at where he came from last year. He had a 95 PFF grade, only allowed 13 pressures. And look, I understand it was a smaller school, but it's good to see his development. Look, they trust him a lot more now. I'm of the opinion, like I said, I would still go out and get another tackle, continue to add tackle depth because I don't necessarily love that he's the first man up right now. But I did think after that one play, I thought he played pretty well. And don't forget too, like this is his first time. Like usually a fourth round rookie, they get eased in a little bit better. They're usually going against the second or the third team. I mean, he was out there with the first team, and I understand they didn't have Fan out there. I understand that they didn't have Brown, and I'm curious to see if either of them play in the preseason. Again, they're veteran players. Maybe Fant gets a game, like a series or two, but with the way the tackle position was of this Jet team, I just have the assume that basically they're trying to keep them healthy. I just assume by the lack of a running game early that he was at least part to blame. Yeah, the running blocking wasn't great. Look, the preseason, I also wonder too, like how hard some of these guys are going, especially on the interior offensive line. Like, are they really going 100%? Like, they're trying to stay healthy. And Mitchell's a funny player too, because his best attribute when I scouted him and when he was drafted from the Jets was, and we just talked about his PFF, was his pass blocking. He was a better pass blocker. I mean, he played left tackle last year. He's played the guard positions, the tackle position. Like the versatility he offers is ideal for the Jets. But obviously, they don't want to put, especially in the preseason game last night, his first ever game. Like there's enough pressure playing right tackle. They didn't want to put him on the blind side last night. So that's why I think he got the nod at right tackle. But this is a tackle who his skill set, his athleticism, his footwork, he's a better pass blocker. The question is going to be the run game. I don't think he's going to ever be a great run blocker. He just doesn't seem to necessarily have that mean streak or that ability. Like Elijah Vera-Tucker can bulldoze people easily. Now, if you had to ask me in today's NFL, and especially with a young quarterback, would I rather have a tackle that maybe gives me a little bit less in the run game, but is a better pass blocker? Sure. So, look, the run game, it's still a bit early. I thought Zonovan had a good night. But Max Mitchell, I thought he did pretty well last night. Look, I understand that, like I said, the optics are not great when that play breaks down. But overall, I didn't think it was that bad. Now, looking back at the play, when you watch it, like I'm just watching the replay now. So on that play with Mitchell, when you see the ball snap, what happens is he gets beat straight off the edge. And you can tell he just doesn't get his foot set, and he just gets straight being off the edge on that play. So part of that too is there's also one of the reasons why, this is another reason why I think that the Jets, they see the talent. Like you can see that he's got talent, but part of the problem with Mitchell is he's coming from a lower level of football and the lower college level. So it takes an adjustment. And one of the biggest things is the speed of this game, how fast it is. And look, when you're coming from that lower level and this is your first game and you're going against, professional edge rushers, I thought he did well enough in that game. It was a tough situation. And look, I get that play wasn't great, but a lot more of that was on Zach. Like Zach could have easily, if Zach just kind of runs it out of bounds there, slides, are we even having this conversation? So overall, like I think Max Mitchell has a higher ceiling than Chuma Edoga. And look, it's going to be tough starting them with the first units, but they're not going to be starting tackles. But I've also been on this channel saying, look, they need to get another tackle. Like it's clear they need to get more tackle help. They need to get more tackle depth out there. So I still think that they're going to be looking. I'm curious to see now what the Jets do. Now, they could technically address it in free agency, but what I kind of have a feeling is, and don't be surprised by this, is now Bryce Hall, I think, could be a trade piece, but could we see a situation where the Jets try to swap Denzel Mims. And I've been using this example a lot, but maybe this is just kind of an example, but like Tevin Jenkins from the Bears, where you have two players that really just don't seem like they're fitting with their organizations. They've each had their issues. It just feels like for the betterment of their careers, both just need kind of a fresh start. Like Andre Dillard with the Eagles was an example I've used. Like maybe they can find a team where they can just do a swap. Like, look, this player isn't really working for us, but he might work better in your scheme. Like I could see them trying to do that to address the offensive line depth because look, I really like Mitchell's upside, but I'm not comfortable with him being the first backup option. So again, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our Jets content. There is a lot to talk about. And look, I thought there were some bright spots last night. I thought Zonovan Knight looked good. I think he's got a chance to make this roster. Jeremy Rucker showing you the athleticism, but also showing you that punch in the run game. Why I fell in love with him as a prospect. Michael Clemens. Now, you do have to worry about some of these other guys on this team, but overall, I thought outside of Zach Wilson last night, I thought that it was a decent game for the Jets and a decent game for these young players. And look, this was the best news possible for this Jet team. Like, if you were to tell me, and like, be honest, guys, if I was to tell you when you saw Zach Wilson down that field, look, he's going to be out 2 to 4 weeks. I guarantee you 95% would have signed up for that immediately because that seemed like the best case scenario because it felt like at that time in that moment, Zach Wilson's season was over. So this is great news. We, of course, keep you up to date on this story and all stories surrounding the New York Jets here on Rich Sports Talk. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of that content. If you're new to the channel, make sure you make sure you comment below. If you're joining us after the live stream, hey, I don't want to leave you out. Make sure you comment below in this video. Let me know what you think. Do you have any questions, any players you want me to talk about from the training camp, any other storylines that I might have missed that you would want to talk about? Is there any frustration that you have with the Jets right now? Because I know there's been a lot, especially last night. I know there was a lot of frustration. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Special shout out to THG Wicked, 50 Cal, and his mom, who officially is now the Rich Sports Talk go-to source for injury news. Appreciate all that help today. And again, always love your guys' feedback. You guys make this channel with your feedback, with your questions, with your analysis. And love you guys as always. You guys brought the A game today. I'm so freaking excited to continue talking to you guys as the season progresses. And look, I know it's not the best news, but this is the best news possible surrounding Zach Wilson. We will keep you up to date as this story evolves here on Rich Sports Talks. Thanks, guys, so much for joining us here today.